Welcome to GRE. I'm your host, Keith Weinhold. When it comes to developing your personal brand to its highest potential, what are those traps that you might be falling into that have prevented you from doing so? And there was once a construction worker in London, and one day he realized that this just wasn't where he was meant to be in life. He contributes to the personal brand discussion today, too, on this week's episode of Get Rich Education. GRE listeners can't stop talking about their service from Ridge Lending Group and MLS 42056. They've provided our tribe with more loans than anyone. They're truly a top lender for beginners and veterans. It's where I go to get my own loans for single-family rental property up to 4plexes. So start your pre-qualification and you can chat with President Chaley Ridge personally. They'll even deliver your custom plan for growing your real estate portfolio. Start at ridgelendinggroup.com. You know, a lot of investors choose either cash flow or home price appreciation, but one real estate market could provide both: Jacksonville, Florida. They've got 27% lower home prices and higher rents than the national median. Their market has appreciated 34% more than other comparable cash flow markets over the last 30 years. Get positive cash flow today and above average appreciation for tomorrow. They often have available inventory in Jacksonville, if you can believe that. Start at cashflowandgrowth.com.
You're listening to the show that has created more financial freedom than nearly any show in the world. This is Get Rich Education.
Welcome to GRE. From Franklin, Massachusetts to Franklin, Tennessee, and across 188 nations worldwide, I'm Keith Weinhold. With more than 4 million listens, you're tuned in to one of America's longest running and most listened to real estate shows. Today, though, it's about how to develop your personal brand, which applies most anywhere. There are a few definitions of a brand. A more strict one is that a brand is an intangible marketing or business concept that helps people identify a company, product, or individual. Okay, I guess that's pretty good. Another definition of a brand I've heard that I like is your unique promise kept over time. That's what a brand is. A big part of keeping promises is doing what you say you're going to do. Therefore, it's a commitment. In my mind, a big part of that is keeping your appointments. If I'm going to collaborate with someone and we have a predetermined date and time, we each put that in our calendar. Now, I would not change that commitment unless some inordinate or unusual circumstance came up. That person trusted me with their time and I trusted them with my time. If someone tells me later that they'd like to reschedule that with me, well, a lot of times I just don't even do that. With all the choices that I have for spending my time, someone else's wavering commitment, well, that doesn't really reflect so well on their personal brand. And also, other people would have liked to have that time with me, but they couldn't get it because I had already committed it to that other person that wanted to cancel or postpone. And, you know, people that have their act together, well-branded people, they commit and they show up on time. I'll give you an example of a well-branded person that keeps commitments, whether you like him or not. In my experience, that is, Rich Dad, Poor Dad author Robert Kiyosaki. Robert and I have done a number of collaborations in the past. I used to be a writer for the Rich Dad Advisors. He's been a guest right here with us on the GRE podcast 4 times. Not once have we had to reschedule or cancel any appointment. We've never done that to each other. Even if we plan something a month in advance, we keep it and we don't have to send each other reminders. It was put on our calendar at the time we made the appointment, so what more do you need? And you wonder why that guy is so successful? Well, one reason could be that he keeps commitments. Now, when it comes to your personal brand, which includes things like your belief systems, your values, your commitment levels, there is one thing that some people, I think they just need to get over it. And Hal Elrod and I believe we touched on this here on the show 3 weeks ago. It's this myth. There are a subset of people that brashly say something like, hey, I don't care about what other people think of me. Oh, That is so wrong. You do too care about what other people think because that is your reputation. And it can be interesting to see the person that says that they didn't care about what other people think and then say they have some fake social media accounts being made up, impersonating their likeness and embarrassing them. Well, you sure had better believe that person that said that they don't care about what other people think, they will frantically try to point out, hey, I don't want you thinking that was me over there spamming you. See, someone is impersonating my account. Oh, well, wait a second. Didn't you just say that you don't care about what other people think? Oh, well, see, you did care. And that's okay because you should. That is your reputation. What if you own a restaurant and people leave negative reviews about your business and negative reviews about you as a business person? Believe me, you care. So do care about what others think. That's just being honest. But yeah, don't care too much. People will care about your brand when they know that first, you can bring them value. So when you start with creating value first, secondly, I think about how are you going to reach people? And then thirdly, it's how are you going to create income? It's value, reach, and then income in my mind. 1, 2, and 3. I'm reaching you right now with this show. And in fact, there was a time between 5 and 10 years ago that even by having a show like this, a person could create value and reach and income. But for new entrants, those days are gone. The podcast landscape became saturated a few years ago, and it's almost impossible to get a substantial reach today for new entrants. So for startups today, a podcast is a lot like a website was, say, 20 years ago. No one stands out by virtue of just having one. You can have a website just like you can have a podcast, but anymore, how would you ever get enough website visitors to make a difference? Or how would you attract enough podcast listeners to make a difference and get that reach? Even celebrities that have this long-running brand recognition that have crossed over and started podcasts, they usually don't get much traction anymore either. They are drowned out in a saturated field, even as a celebrity. So if you want your brand to reach people today, well, that's a really long discussion, and this is not a marketing show, so I'd start with just 2 pieces of guidance. Number 1, look for that new media source that is not crowded today. It might be what you would think of as that next media type. And for a while, people thought that it might be voice-activated media like Alexa or Siri. I don't really know that that's getting traction like some people thought, though, but that's the way to be thinking. What's next? And then secondly, if you know of a thought leader that wants to get their message out with a podcast today, rather than starting their own show and entering a crowded field, gosh, starting your own show, you could spin your wheels with many episodes. And unlike a website that doesn't need to be constantly updated, a podcast takes regular releases and production, advertising, sound engineering and marketing, transcription, and a support network of complementary resources from video to social media and more. I've got a great shortcut to that in the podcasting world that will save you a lot of time and money and frustration. If you know someone that wants to get their message out through a podcast today, the big shortcut is to be a guest on another show that already has a big following. And that way you've outsourced all of the production and marketing and everything else to a proven channel. And that can save you hundreds or thousands of hours in your life. Rather than starting a podcast, be a guest on a few big name shows. Now that you know how you're going to provide value to the world, you've got your reach as well. Hey, I've got more thoughts like this for you on building your personal brand, but before I share those, let's talk to today's remarkable guest on how to build your personal brand. This week's guest was a construction worker in London that had a realization that this wasn't where he was meant to be in life. He started trying then to find ways to talk to wealthy people. What made them wealthy, but not him? He bounced around a lot of different jobs trying to find his groove. Insurance, cake sales, garden work. Eventually, he ran a concierge service, making the impossible possible. He helps his clients walk the red carpet at Sir Elton John's Oscar party, get married at the Vatican, and dive to the wreck of the Titanic. His book is called Blue Fishing, The Art of Making Things Happen, because he is an expert on making it happen and personal branding. Someone that I really admire, Genius Network founder Joe Polish, said, if you can dream it, Steve Sims is the guy who can make it happen. So, hey, it's great to have you here. Welcome to GRE, Steve Sims.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Blue Fishing, the name of your book. What does that refer to? It sounds like I'm trying to catch a marlin or something.
Do you know, we had no idea. It's honestly to that, when we started throwing private parties, we found it very interesting that people loved passwords. So we would say, hey, the party's over there, and you've got to say this password for the night. And people really liked that. So we started coming up with stupid passwords. And one of them was finish the sentence, one fish, two fish, red fish. So people would walk up, quote the classic Dr. Seuss poem and go, bluefish, and they'd get in. Now, the funny thing is, it was one of like 10 different passwords we were using, but I think we probably ended up using this one maybe too many times, because we always did really good parties or really good events or really good experiences. People started saying to me, hey, I had a party for my daughter and I bluefished it. Or I went to a concert and I bluefished my way backstage to meet Taylor Swift. All of a sudden, it became an adjective. It became an action statement. We didn't know where it came from. In fact, it was years later that we actually realized there was even a fish, bluefish, outside of the Dr. Seuss novel. But by that time, it had stuck. So bluefishing became the adjective of when you've got something, but how can you add some sparkle to it?
So blue fishing, kind of leveling up your game to get back closer to the origin, Steve. It sounds like perhaps that's part of your path. When you were a bricklayer in London and you're trying to get around wealthy people and find out what they were doing, leveling up, and you didn't find out until later on, perhaps that was called blue fishing. So where those conversations led you when you were getting around wealthy people and getting in conversations with them, trying to learn about how they were wealthy, but you weren't at the time?
Well, obviously the conversations were bad. And I say obviously because every time we do anything, it's terrible compared to how it is 2 years later. Right. You know, your podcast, you're a great podcast, you're a great podcast host, but I'm going to put money on the fact that the first podcast you ever did was slightly embarrassing.
Oh, don't even go back and listen. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So the first time we do anything is bad. I was an aggravated, and it wasn't pretty. I was an aggravated young man with no money riding around on a motorcycle. And I was aggravated because I wouldn't settle for where I was. So you combine that with my boisterous, slightly aggressive image and look, it wasn't a good thing to have. And I would help people get into nightclubs and I would try and spark up conversations with affluent people. And I would say, hey, I got a question for you. So my tone was very abrupt. And I'd be like, hey, I need to ask you, how come you're rich and I'm not? And of course, the tonality of which I entered into that conversation, that was bad. The pace, the tempo, it was horrible. But also the question was bad. Because you see, when I ask you, how rich are you? You start thinking about a number. Most people correlate being rich with a number, whether it be the bank account, how much assets they've, it's a number. And so it makes you feel uncomfortable. I say, how rich are you? And it's like, I feel uncomfortable about answering that question. So I didn't get very good response. So then the next time I started speaking to people, I would say, hey, I need to ask you, how come you're wealthy and I'm not? And I thought by changing that word, that would help.
Yeah.
Then I started getting into a conversation. But the conversations were like, well, wealth is family. And I met my wife when she was 21 and I found the Lord and I do line dancing in my local country club. And I'm thinking, I'm going, well, I'm not going to do line dancing or marry your wife. So that doesn't help me. And so again, it was the wrong question to get the tactics, hacks and techniques that I needed. I very quickly learned if you don't like the answer, it's probably because you're asking the wrong question.
Right. You want a better answer? Ask better questions.
Bingo. So I started looking at it and I ask rich, it's money. I ask wealth, it's lifestyle. What's the success? Let's try that. And so by now I'm starting to slow down my tempo. And I'm like, hey, I've got to be asking you, how come you're successful and I'm not? And people are actually very happy with it. I ask you, hey, how do you quantify success? Or what do you think makes you successful? Or what do you think your unicorn is to make you successful? You actually want to tell me. You actually, well, funny enough, it's how I treat people, or it's how I go into a business deal, or it's how I look at money and the impact. But all of a sudden I'm getting answers and I'm actually getting the tactics. That was it. Third one, home run. What makes you successful and I'm not? Now, those were the first questions I used to ask. What idiot is going to gain that information and then not actually action it? Now, I may be slightly stupid, but I'm not that big a moron. So as people are telling me how to kind of like face opportunity and handle people and learn how to treat people properly, I'm actioning it. And the byproduct of a successful mentality is income. It's like you want to lose weight. You don't lose weight by buying a diet book. You lose weight by actioning the articles in the diet book. Losing weight is a reaction to action. Getting money is a reaction to being successful. And success literally starts the second you adopt a successful mindset. And that was as simple as it was. And of course, as I grew and started speaking with everyone from the Archbishop of St. Peter's to Elon Musk and Richard Branson and all of these other kind of people all around the planet, Elton John, I was able to go, hey, how do you view success? Or how come you're successful when so many other people are not? I was able to take myself out of that equation because I was now, as I believe I am, a successful mindset.
You're asking better questions. You're getting better answers. Sure. Asking someone how rich they are. We're just talking about what's up on the scoreboard, which matters, but that's a result. Really wants to be more concerned typically with the effort and the road to getting there and how was that success established. So this must have been helping you find yourself. George Bernard Shaw said that life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself. Ooh. And usually when you get better answers to asking about success, that can help you get on the road to building and establishing your personal brand and probably finding out who you want to be in the world.
I gave a little chuckle there because I think my earlier years, I was so ignorant to what anyone else thought, I just kept going forward. And you see, today, we're in a very visual economy. How do you look on TikTok? How do you look on your profile picture? How do you look on the videos you're doing on a podcast? How do I look? And when I was younger, I didn't care. My thought was, look, if I can get you into that private party, if I can get you a drum lesson with Guns N' Roses, if I can get you into a private museum at midnight, then you'll talk to me. And so I never cared about how I sounded, how I showed up, or what I looked like. So I never had any of those hurdles, any of those inferiority complex. So that was actually a very good way for me to get to the root of the actual question and to the root of the relationship by showing up as someone that I wanted to be. Today, I run a company with my son called Sims Media, and we're one of the largest, most successful personal branding companies out there. And here's the dumb thing. I wish we were out of business. My son's probably hoping I don't say things like that, but it's kind of sad when there are businesses that teach and train and educate you onto how to be you. Today, we are so busy creating these profiles, these looks, these avatars, these facades of who we are.
Twitter accounts with blue checks.
Yeah, gives a and everyone's so hell-bent on getting 1 million followers, and everyone's mortified if their latest video doesn't go viral, in air quotes. Now, here's the daft thing. I was doing a training program a little while ago for chiropractors, and I was doing a Q&A for this speakeasy I was doing, and I said, so what are you looking for? And he went, I want 1 million views on my videos. And I said, okay, let's play now. You want 1 million views on your videos? Why? Because I want more clients. I said, do you want more clients or do you want more credibility? I want more credibility. So if more people are following me, that gives me the credibility to get the clients. Great, fine. How many clients do you want? And he went, 20. And I went, well, hang on a minute. That's your number. And he said, yeah, 20. I said, so let me get this right. You need 1 million viewers to get 20? The danger is with 1 million views, you're going to get more than 20. But let's ask a question. You want 20 clients. How many can you handle? He said, yeah, I could look after 20. I went, done. Magic wand. Tomorrow, 10 o'clock in the morning, your office suddenly has 20 people walk in at 10 a.m. all wanting your services. Can you handle them? He went, no, I don't have space for 20 at one time. So what's your number? And he went, I'd like 3 the first week and then 3 like 2 weeks later, giving me a chance to work with those new 3 plus my existing clients. And so every couple of weeks, if I had another 3 until I got another revolving 20, that'd be good for me. I said, so your number's 3, yet somehow you picked out of your, you need 1 million views on this video for 3. You don't need 1 million views. You need 3 conversations. And that's the problem we got today. In today's world, we're so focused on followers, blue check marks, going viral, all of this stuff that really shouldn't matter. What we should focus on is having a conversation and, importantly, a connection with another human being.
Real authentic connections with people. In a sense, one is eroding out their personal brand's potential if they tailor everything around an algorithm in the example that you gave us there, Steve. But you are such an expert in helping people find their personal brand. Why don't you talk to us some more about the tips that one can take on the road to finding the right personal brand for them? Part of that being authentic connection.
There's kind of a bit of a trickery in that question. The right personal brand. The right personal brand is the right you, and the right you is the real you. See, here's the thing. You go into a room and it could have, and let's focus on the real estate investors with opportunities. You're in a networking event. You know that everyone in the room can afford to partner with you and can get involved with you. So you've done the filtering. These are all good qualified potentials monetarily. Now, what you want to do, and Cameron Howell talks about this, you want to build a relationship based on shared culture. You see, I can teach someone to speak French. I can speak someone to write code, but I can't teach someone to share the same vision and belief and culture as I have.
Skill can be taught, culture can't.
Bingo. So the whole point is when people walk into a room, the first devastating thing they do is they react to the other person to give them who they want them to see. Now, that's very confusing for them and for you. And I've been through this. You know, there was a point in my life where I'm dealing with billionaires, and I only dealt with billionaires, but I suddenly thought to myself, hang on a minute, I'm still wearing a black T-shirt, riding around on a motorcycle. I better change. I bought a Ferrari. I started wearing tailor-made suits, and I bought an expensive watch, Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore, with a custom dial. It was absolutely stunning. And all of a sudden, get this, I started attracting more clients because I looked successful. But you know what was happening? I was attracting people that were attracted to my look and not to my personality, not to my culture. I was making more money with people that I had no connection with. And the effort it was taking me to become the facade of the person they wanted to keep the engagement. If you walk into a room as a solution to somebody else's interest or problem, all of a sudden what you look like and what you sound like, it goes out the window because you're the solution to that problem. If I knock on your door at 1 o'clock in the morning, all of a sudden you're thinking, how the bloody hell does he know where I live? But let's forget that for a second. And I woke up your partner and I woke up the kids and the dog's barking and the cat's screaming. 1 o'clock in the morning, I woke up your house and your neighborhood. You're looking at me at 1 o'clock in the morning going, what are you doing? But if I suddenly turn around to you and I say, look, I'm so sorry, Keith, but I had to come around here because I'm just around the corner at a 24-hour diner with Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, and Richard Branson, and we got one more seat at the table and I thought of you. Are you still annoyed with me, or are you hugging me and running out of the room to get to that chair?
I am grateful, and you must have established quite a personal brand.
There you go. So the point is, one of them is an aggravation. The other one is a solution. When you're an aggravation, there's a lot of cleanup and there's a lot of sales pitch and there's a lot of smooth. And I'm trying to attract you and I'm trying to engage you and I'm throwing you down a funnel. But if I'm a solution to your problem, you just want me. It's as simple as that. You know, warts and all, you want me.
No one cares about me until a stranger knows how much I can help them. You're listening to Get Rich Education. We're talking with Steve Sims. He was called the modern day Wizard of Oz by Entrepreneur Magazine. More when we come back. I'm your host, Keith Weinhold. For accredited investors, if you've ever wanted 10 to 12% passive income returns, Wagner and Alasko and his professional partners could have the right answer for you. with real estate, one of the safest assets available on the planet. On a preferred return basis, you collect your money before anyone else does. I encourage you, go ahead, learn more about their opportunities at I'mAccredited.com or text 305-684-2222 for your free investment guide. Hey, my friend Damian Lupo informed me that checkbook IRAs have been made illegal by the U.S. tax court. If you have a checkbook IRA, your holdings are now disqualified with taxes and penalties up to 50%. But don't panic, Damian and the EQRP company can fix this. Those IRAs can be converted into EQRPs retroactive to last year, getting those tax deductions and reducing your taxable income. In this way, you can invest your 401k or IRA in real estate, Bitcoin, gold, and even your own business. So whether you're a full-time investor or retired or even a dentist with dozens of employees, if you're listening, you qualify, the EQRP works. It's a solution. You'll control your money, kill UBIT, and pay way less taxes. To learn more about this strategy and free up your retirement money, get the newest EQRP special report. Text GRE to 307-213-3475. That's text GRE to 307-213-3475.
This is Rich Dad, Poor Dad author Robert Kiyosaki. Listen to Get Rich Education with Keith Weinhold. Don't quit your daydream.
Welcome back to Get Rich Education. We're talking with a remarkable person that has really made more of himself like few people have. His name's Steve Sims. You can learn more about him at stevedsims.com. He's the type of guy that turns the impossible into the possible for people with an expansionary mindset. I often like to say that don't live below your means, grow your means. You can make so much more of yourself. And when you try to live below your means, you kind of have a floor as to how far you can go down. When you try to expand your means, there's really no ceiling there and you're living better anyway. And, you know, Steve, you're such an expert at helping people knock down walls and make more of themselves and deal with obstacles that people have in their life. And maybe your wife wants you to do the safe thing and keep that job and not buy these $1 million properties that create cash flow for you. Maybe you're concerned about being rejected by reaching out to someone that you admire and you fear that sort of thing. Steve, tell us more about how one really knocks down some of those walls to make more of themselves.
Great thought. And I do a lot of speaking and coaching and training now on this exact subject. So let me lay it out for you very easy. With me, whenever I'm in a room, whenever I'm trying to get someone, my first question is, hey, how are you? Yeah, it's good. What are you working on at the moment? How are you doing that? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about doing it? I'm on their project. I'm not on mine. I'm validating that I am of value to that person because sooner or later, they're going to turn around and go, that's fantastic. Steve, that's brilliant. How do I connect with it? How do we get going? How do we partner? Well, actually, it's funny you should say that because I'm working on this. I'll be blunt with you. I could do with your help. So there's a win-win. And that's how it's done. It ain't hard. You try that with people around you. You think about it. Everyone is asking the self-serving, self-satisfying, the selfish questions that benefit them before they ask what they can bring to my party.
We talk more about win-wins. Yes, often it is helping the other person get what they want first. In fact, one of the first ever self-help books that was ever published back in the 1930s, Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. Yep. I could save everyone a few hundred pages of reading. It really comes down to one sentence. Ask others about themselves. They are everyone's favorite subject. In a conversation, if you're using the word you more than I, you're probably winning. That's what I like to say. Are there any other thoughts about win-win? Because this does help you build your brand once you contribute to others and get those win-wins and get those collaborations. How else can someone think rather than thinking selfishly?
So let's focus on that word brand for a second. It's become massaged, manipulated, stretched into all manner of different things as the business world has expanded over the last years and decades. But let's understand what a brand is. A brand is what people say about you when you've left the room.
Yeah.
Now, if you sell kiddie shoes and your shoes come in every single color and you go to a party and then when you leave the party, everyone is talking about yours is the best place to get yellow shoes, then that's what your brand stands for, yellow shoes. So you've got to try and control the narrative. Now, to control the narrative, you've again got to understand what is a brand. And a brand falls into two sides. It's solution-based or it's aspirational-based. To understand the difference, how many times do you see an advert for a sports car? And the advert for the sports car, the actual camera just sees a pair of hands on the steering wheel and is placing you in the car. And you look over and there's a beautiful woman with her hair tossing in the air. And that's putting you in that moment. And you go, oh my God, I wish I lived that life. And how many times do you see the adverts for Rolex, Audemars Piguet, all of these watches that range from anywhere from $10,000 to hundreds of thousands of dollars, when we all know a $200 Apple Watch is going to keep the time more accurately than any of those? But one signifies a status symbol. One of them is aspirational. Look at ladies' handbags. There's a reason why a Michael Kors handbag is X and a Birkin handbag costs this. And there's a reason why so many people want the Birkin handbag, because, hey, it shows I've made it, like the Gucci belt and all these other logos. So one of them is aspirational. Are you delivering a I've made it statement? If you are, you got a lot of packaging to do. Think of Tiffany, all the blue boxes that it goes through. Aspirational. If you're solution-based, all of that goes out the window. Do you care what your mechanic looks like when he's fixing your car? When you have a headache at 2:00 in the morning and you go to your bathroom cabinet and you grab out some headache tablets and you look at the bottle, when was the last time you went, no, I don't like the logo, I'm going to find a different bag? You never have. No one cares about branding when it's solution-based. When it's solution-based, you focus on it being the solution to your problem. And so you've got to work out, first of all, is your brand aspirational? Here's an example. Grant Cardone. Kind of guessing a few people out there know who he is.
Sure.
Is he solution-based or is he aspirational-based? And I'm asking you.
I think he's pretty aspirational.
Yeah, of course he is. Look at my model wife. And yeah, I hear he's a great guy. Don't know him too well, so I'm not saying anything here.
He's been on the show here.
Yeah, look at my jets. Look at my car. Look at where I'm going. I'm here. He's all very pumped up and loud and proud. He's very aspirational. You do this, and you too could be me. That's what he's selling. He's selling the aspiration that you could be Grant Cardone. And then there's other people out there that say, hey, this is how you do your taxes and you save money. You do this happens. That's a solution. So you've got to ask yourself, when you're reaching out to people, whether it be to make an introduction, to make a connection, to get them to invest in you, to get them to joint venture, to get them to partner with you, are you the aspirational, hey, if you get with me, you too can have all of this? Or are you the, hey, you need to do this because there's a hole in your workspace that I'm the solution for? Identify where you stand first as a brand and then fine-tune on that.
And absolutely everyone has a brand. I was talking to my neighbor one time, and my landscaper, Juan, was doing some work in my backyard. I was actually talking about branding, and my neighbor happened to mention that, oh, like your landscaper there, he doesn't have a brand. I think everyone has a brand. They all have a set of systems and beliefs and maybe attention to detail or whatever. Everyone has a brand, including Juan, my landscaper.
Beautiful, man. Well done. You've just pointed it out without trying. Your landscaper has a brand, because he has a brand because he has credibility, reputation, respectability, all of the elements. But here's the big element that he does have that you repeated a few times: clarity on what he does. We built a branding company. We spend a good amount of time in that company. First things first, getting rid of all the confusion that 9 times out of 10 you've created. You see, today, in a world of mass distraction and distortion and noise, we want clarity. I want to know that if I do this, that happens. I go there, I experience this. I buy that, that happens with it. I want the clarity. I want the simplicity. Trump, not here to talk about politics, but Trump won based on clarity. Now, you could have asked a 4-year-old child, what was Trump's ambitions in becoming a president? And he would have gone, make America great, build a wall, there were all of these slogans that were very, very clear and precise. It didn't matter if you agreed with them. They were crystal clear. Now, I've just named two, Make America Great and Build a Wall. Can you remember two that were actually being quoted by Hillary?
That's a good point. I cannot.
No one can. Most politicians are scared of actually putting a foot forward and declaring this is what I stand for. They'd rather kind of like, well, we'll worm around it. That's what politicians do. Trump came around with pure clarity, and a lot of people went, don't understand. I don't agree with everything he says. The guy's a philandering womanizer, but, he's clear with his message. And that was it. Clarity. Today, we just want to know where you're going, what you're doing. The rest of it, no one cares about. So in your brand, I'm going to ask you, everybody out there, how clear are you at what you do? If you buy properties that are, trailer parks, are you the trailer park specialist, or do you do all kinds of real estate? Do you do all kinds of real estate between this budget, or are you all kinds of real estate? Again, how niched down are you in the clarity of what it is you actually do?
That is a great point. Clarity in establishing one's personal brand, because people's lives are so busy, so full of options and choices that if you're not clear, you're going to lose somebody. That really helps give us clarity on how to make a personal brand really shine, Steve. If someone wants to learn more about you and what you do and how you can help people and how you're such a motivator for people, what's the best way for them to connect and learn more about what you do?
I got a few options, and pretty much most of them are free. I've got an Entrepreneur's Advantage with Steve Sims. It's a free Facebook group. Or you can just text the word Sims, S-I-M-S, to 33777. Or here's something really easy, Steve D. Sims. There's D for dashing and only one M in Sims. SteveDSims.com, or anywhere you consume your media. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Steve D. Sims. Send me a message. Let me know you saw this show and you enjoyed it. Or even if you didn't, still send me a message.
It's been a valuable chat, Steve. Thanks so much for coming out of the show.
Look after yourself.
Oh yeah, a really interesting interview with Steve Sims today. One thing we discussed is that you can't snap your fingers and instantly make yourself a person that you're not. So it's about gradually being who you are becoming. Now, here at GRE, our show keeps growing, and about 2 years ago, I felt like I needed to make a new key hire to run the internal operations here so that I could have enough time clear to make the best content for you every week, so I can stay focused in that lane. But gosh, I just had to admit to myself that I really didn't know how to make a quality hire here, like to bring in an experienced professional. And realizing that I didn't even know how to hire someone of this caliber, I looked around my network of people. I knew that Ken McElroy had employed a hiring manager, Jennifer, to help him, and I tapped her so that Jennifer could find a COO for GRE. Jennifer and I worked on the position advertisement. She interviewed the top candidates. She narrowed it down to 3, and then Andrea was selected. Then I got Garrett Sutton to help me write the work contract. So I had acknowledged that hiring a top pro was beyond my skill set. And Andrea is such a professional here, she has her MBA as well, that when GRE added more staff later after her, Andrea is the one that does the interviewing, not me. And then continuing in this vein of don't pretend to be someone that you're not, when we make a new hire here at GRE today, I don't pretend like I have some lofty corporate experience or that I know how to run things around here and manage people. So when I talk to a new hire here, I simply tell them the truth. I say something like, I found myself with a show here that a lot of people seem to like to listen to, but I don't really have any experience managing people. So I really want you to feel comfortable in speaking up when you think that I could be doing something better. So yeah, I tell everyone something like that. All right, now what did this just do when I told this to a new hire? Well, first of all, it's just honesty. It makes me more comfortable. It made the new hire more comfortable. And finally, I'm not pretending to be someone that I'm not. When I was in the working world, I really didn't climb up the corporate ladder that high. I didn't get that corporate experience. Instead, I decided to leave that world behind. Steve made a terrific point at the end about brand clarity, being clear on what your brand stands for, whether that's your personal brand or your company's brand. I told you near the start of today's show that commitment and respecting other people's time is a big part of my personal brand. Certainly attention to detail is too. Maybe I take that too far sometimes. But GRE's brand clarity is in 4 words: real estate financial freedom. Those 4 words tell you where you and I are going together and how you're getting there. And once you're in the GRE world and tribe, then we can get more nuance. For example, with our strategy of financially free beats debt free. And with that, now you see how real estate financial freedom is achieved faster. I sign off each show with "Don't Quit Your Daydream," and it's a trademark that we own here at GRE. So the point is, be clear and memorable in order to have a successful brand for yourself. And this doesn't have to be that well developed and shiny, and you don't have to have terms trademarked in order to have a strong brand. Juan, my landscaper that whacks all the weeds along my fence in the backyard and doesn't leave any clippings behind, well, I can see that his brand was there, imprinted in the yard. Speaking of some other, well-branded real estate figures, if you want to listen to Grant Cardone and I together here on the show, where we 10x your wealth together, he was with us on episode 264, so you can go back and listen to that one. Robert Kiyosaki's latest appearance here on GRE was last year. You'll find he and I together most recently on episode 358. As far as today's chat, you might be interested in seeing Steve Sims and I's chat from today. Other than just listening to the audio here, it might help reinforce some of these branding concepts for you. He's also just a really interesting figure to see and listen to. You can do that on our YouTube channel, which is easy to find and remember because we're, I suppose, consistently branded. That's because our YouTube channel is called Get Rich Education. I'd expect that video to be published there by about now. Personal branding means that there is perhaps a better investment than leveraged income property. That investment is you. Until next week, I'm your host, Keith Weinhold. Don't quit your daydream.
Nothing on this show should be considered specific, personal, or professional advice. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business professional for individualized advice. Opinions of guests are their own. Information is not guaranteed. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. The host is operating on behalf of Get Rich Education, LLC exclusively.
The preceding program was brought to you by your home for wealth building, GetRichEducation.com.